In full autumn mode right now, and basically we've moved from September into October, and this is the first weekend of October, and I'm just taking advantage of that final, it's not so much warmth, I think we're at 12 degrees today and it's dropped a little bit this afternoon, but I'm out in the park with my AlphaSmart Neo, something that I've shared with all of you in many of my videos, but it's a brilliant little tool. It's very robust and it's lightweight, and I'd rather take this out with me into the park for a little spot of writing than anything else. Autumn has arrived, and with autumn has come Preptober. Preptober is the prime opportunity before the end of the year to think about your writing, to craft your ideas, and to explore the stories that are running through your mind, and to capture those in some format, whether it is on a notebook or an old-fashioned but very sturdy, reliable device like this, or in your laptop, or something on your desk at home. Autumn is my favourite time of the year because it marks the movement from daylight and being out and about and all the social activity that we have, and I can still hear the voices of kids and families playing in the park just to enjoy that last moment of the afternoon. Autumn, and October in particular, is the time that we move from having much more control over the daylight hours and the opportunities to enjoy a long day and to pack our day with great things, but it takes us into that place where the writing, the art of sitting down, and I say art of sitting down and being alone, is very important. There are many distractions. The distractions in the winter seem so much more to me than they are at other times of the year.
Yes,
That was quite fun. That was quite funny. A couple of lads on an electric bike just mucking around and having time in the park. But why not? This is a great time of the year. Let's talk about Preptober. Preptober is traditionally that month-long period when you can sit and work on your projects and get great. Yeah.
Yeah, is it?
Yeah.
Oh shit! Let's get us in one. What YouTube is it?
Those lads just came back to find out why I was sitting on a bench in a public park and recording a video. And the first thing they said is, "Are you on YouTube?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And that's the first time in 3 years that's ever happened. So that's quite exciting. A minor point, but I'm sure they'll be excited to see themselves riding past on an illegal road bike in a public park. But it's nice, it's quiet, there's very few people here, and they're just a couple of lads out enjoying themselves. Before I was pleasantly interrupted, that's what it was a pleasant interruption, I was talking about the fact that October is this month-long opportunity we have to get ourselves ready for what for many years has been called National Novel Writing Month. In its short form, it's called Nanowrimo, and it is a very good opportunity and has been created as a very good opportunity for you and I to completely focus on getting our ideas from here onto keyboard or into ink, whatever works as your style, and capturing and recording what matters for us. I'm working on two things this year. One of those is the promotion and finishing of an existing book, and the other, they've just gone by again, and the other is the process of starting with a new story. It's the second book in a series where the first book has actually been finished and written, and I'm very happy about it. But the book that I want to prep for in October is the second book in a detective series based in Mexico City, where I have my character. That first book I wrote, I started it on the flight back from Mexico City last month, and I've made very good progress on it, to the extent that I think the new book, second book in that series, will be something that I can prep completely during the month of October and take it through November to see it as a finished manuscript. One of the processes within that is to develop new storylines, to think of some other characters that can be introduced to the existing team at that particular police station, and to see how those new and the existing characters that I established in book one can work together on the crime that takes place in this second storyline. I'm really excited about it, but I have to say I want to spend October getting some depth to the existing characters, so starting to learn more about their families, including some little backplots or sub-stories about things that have happened to them in their policing careers to date, but also introducing some new intrigue and some new storylines, which I think will add greatly to the way that the story develops. They've just been back for more. Those lads have just been back for another shot. A dog walker has just come past me and, slightly curious, stood off camera for a while whilst I was recording the last minute or so, and then given me a wave and wandered off. So bizarrely, recording in a public park might be a good idea. I've got the jackdaws or crows, I'm not sure, in one of the trees around me, but I can hear them settling in for the afternoon. In October, I want to get really clear on where my new story goes, what the 2 or 3 major events or pivot points within the story, the plot twists, will be, and how those come to life in the way that I elaborate the story and I develop it so that it will make sense to me first and then to the reader. Preptober is always a great opportunity, and let's talk about Nanowrimo, which is the November month in which you take your ideas from your draft format or your point of capture, however you've done it, and you turn those into the very rough first draft of the actual story, so that you then work on it perhaps in December and January and package it in a complete way or in an entire way and make good sense out of it, doing all the things that you think are very important for the way it develops. I'm getting tired of those lads now because they're just doing repeat circles, but that's fine. If I was a kid and I saw somebody with a camera, I'd probably want to sneak into the action. Last week I did a video saying, can Nanowrimo survive? And my own view, and I shared it in the video, is that it definitely can. It's gone through some ups and downs. In the last 5 or 6 weeks, it's had a significant amount of turbulence. Nanowrimo as a specific month in the calendar marks a very significant point where we can take our ideas and our suggestions for ourselves. Nanowrimo marks a really useful point in the diary. For me, it's the closing down of the year. December is really just about festivities and family time, as is much of the first few weeks of January. So November for many of us is that last shooting point of the year, a public calendar event called Nanowrimo, where we can commit our thoughts and ideas into a written format so that the opportunity to take those into something more significant is very much part of the way that we take that month forward. I'm looking forward to creating this new story using characters I have become familiar with in the last few weeks and drafting that into something that I will give a lot of thought to as we go into November, but not as much thought as I give it in this current month of my preparation for Nanowrimo. How you approach it is up to you. I think that one of the things that helped me in a previous year when I wrote my book 10-Minute Budget, which was a pure Nanowrimo book, and forgive me for mentioning it again, but I wrote it on the AlphaSmart Neo. This is a brilliant device. It's distraction free. I can't go online. I can take it to a coffee shop. I can sit on the train, where I love writing on the train, or I can sit as I am now on a park bench in a public space, and I can just quietly get on with things. I brought a flask of coffee with me this afternoon just to get access to a fresh drink without the temptation to think, oh, I've got to go home or I need to go to a coffee shop, but I would have to go to the centre of town for that. In October, I want to be as distraction free as possible, and that means I'm deliberately limiting my time of online as a consumer. I'm going to be creating and crafting content because that's important to me, but what I want to do very much in the course of October is focus on the new story, focus on building those characters. I'm going to be taking pictures from magazines of people I don't know but who are perhaps well known in their environments or their activities, and looking at a roll call of photographs to say, could this be the sort of feature that I want somebody to have as a character in my books? Just a few months ago, I was at Manchester Airport waiting for my wife to arrive for a month over here before we then flew back to Mexico City together. And as I was waiting at the arrivals barrier, in the group of people behind me, I noticed somebody talking to another shopkeeper. One was a member of airport staff and one was somebody who worked in one of the stores in the airport. And they were just engaged in a friendly conversation as people who work together or who are acquaintances through their work roles. But one of them really struck out as a character, so I very discreetly filmed about 30 seconds of B-roll, thinking, I don't know when I'm going to use that, but there's a significance in having seen that person. And now I know that I have a character that I can put that face to in this particular story. When I write a story, it helps me to have a sense of not only who I'm writing for. So by my desk, I often have a little envelope of photographs of the friends or family that I'm imagining reading the story. But I'm starting to put a portfolio together in October of potential visual characteristics or the faces or the body types and structures for the new people who are going to come into this second story about my particular police detective in Mexico City. And this man's photograph is going to get printed off and put on that storyboard to help me with those ideas for developing the story. Because when we read a story, and I've just read one by Eric Ambrose, Journey into Fear, about the English engineer Graham, who happens to be at risk because of the work he's doing in 1940 for a Turkish naval yard with orders from a British arms manufacturer. So he has to go into various environments and situations. And what I love about having read that story by Eric Ambrose is the deep characters we get from just a few strokes of the pen in the way he has described their characters or an element of their character, such as a velvet jacket or a felt hat, perhaps a waistcoat underneath a tweed jacket. Just simple little tricks or turns of the nib on the paper that have given us a greater perspective, a deeper insight into the makeup or the build of that character. So I want to put that storyboard together over the next few days and then use that so that when we drop into November the 1st, the fast writing begins. Because when you do plan, when you do prep, the creation of the manuscript can actually happen significantly faster because you're not sitting there writing from thin air and you have a storyline to work to. You have a story grid that's already marked out and you can find your way through that in a form that allows for greater simplicity and also, the second point, for speed of writing. It's turning a little bit more nippy now as the sun is going down. It's about 5:20 now and I've been in the park for an hour or so. I'm going to head back to the house and maybe transfer, not today but certainly tomorrow, some of the ideas that I've been thinking about and capturing on my AlphaSmart, and certainly tomorrow when I'm going down into the coffee shop in town, and flesh those out a little bit further so that I feel that I've advanced somewhat since the end of the week that was yesterday and made some progress through the weekend as part of my prepping during October to be ready for Nanowrimo. Like I've said, I'm happy to continue with Nanowrimo. I've started to call it Manuscript in a month, certainly in my own head, in my own mind, and I've referenced that in a couple of videos, and also I made mention of it in a Medium article earlier this week. But get ready, give yourself a fair advantage by getting your index cards together, putting your ideas on paper, starting to populate a few files with the ideas that you are focused on as we move into the second week of October. It's the first full week of October that we're about to engage with. But give yourself that advantage of having a story that is crafted and structured, and you have the opportunity to take it into a better position by developing it as we go into this full second week of October.
Yes, yes, go.